Happy to be here. I know it's a tough spot because the next speaker and I are the only things between you and a lot of alcohol. I realize that. And I also want to thank Heather for really setting up the stage for search. I think it was pretty evident how passionate she was about the lousy search experience she had with Nordstrom. But I'm not going to talk about what she talked about because this is about personal search experience, and it is doable today by technology. Personal recommendations is doable. We actually are doing it today. Conversational commerce, being able to actually communicate through text with your store, that's also doable. And there are kind of prototypes around that. But all these things, if they are level 5, today the state of the world in search is about -3. So we'll start from the basics. Now, the first thing is, why should you listen to me? And the answer to that is because people who search actually came to buy. Now, we're a search company, so we collect data. We can collect anything you can think of. Who clicked on what, where, when, which session kind of used search, which sessions did not use search. So what you see here is an example from a real store. And you can see that we are showing here conversion ratio of sessions with search against sessions without search. And you can see that the conversion rates are basically 2.5x different. That means that people who came to this shop and used search were 2.5x more likely to convert. This makes search probably the best conversion machine you have. Now, this is actually lower than the average. The average across thousands and thousands of stores is at about 3.6. And that depends on the type of the business, depends on the type of the products, depends on the type of experience. The next thing is the amount of revenue that is search related. In this case, it's almost 50%. So search is important. Now, the next question is, what do merchants think about that? And we translate it into something which is called, if they're interested in search, are they willing to pay for that? And that is especially important in the WooCommerce world and WordPress, where people basically like to get a lot of stuff for free. So we actually did that. And we thought, how big a store would actually be willing to pay for search? So this goes across thousands of stores. And you can see that 50% of people who are actually paying us for search have less than 300 products. So actually, you don't have to be a very large store to get benefit from search. Now, in search, there are two things that are important. The first is relevancy, which means, are you getting the right results for what you're searching for? And the second is performance. We'll get to performance later. But first, relevancy. So the difference between one basic search to a good search can be more than 50% conversion. Before, the 3.6x was no search versus search. This is one search to another search, and the difference can be north of 50%, sometimes 100% better. Now, how do you measure relevancy? This is some of the back end that goes kind of in a search engine. One of the things you measure is called a click-through rate. So in a perfect world where you get search results, you want to have everybody click on the first result that they see on the left-hand side. Why? Because this should be the right result and everybody should click on it. Now, in reality, it doesn't happen. But what you're aspiring to see is this type of graph, where basically over 90% of all clicks are going to be on the first page. If you don't have that, if you have kind of an equal distribution, it means that you have a bad search. Now, the second thing is performance. And in search, and Google proved that, performance means money. So what are you going to do about that? So I'll go over 4 different phases because, as you know, in WordPress and WooCommerce, search can be very, very slow. So there are kind of 4 phases. The first phase is you want to engage the user right from the get-go. How do you do that? You can use what's called rich autocompletion. And rich autocompletion basically has 2 main sections. The first is the query, which is trying to guess what the user is about to type. This is very important in mobile, for example. The second are products. You can actually have a pretty good guess what the user is looking for. And conversion rates of just the drop-down can vary between single-digit or double-digit percent, like 11%, to I've seen stores with north of 60%. That means that 60% of the people who actually even start typing in a search box actually don't go through a search results page or any of that. They just select something from this drop-down. Now, let's assume that it didn't work and the shopper actually continued to type and hit enter. Then what happens? Then, basically, a query goes to the search engine, and now you have kind of the other steps, which is get the results fast. And the way to do that is you can do a number of things. You can basically have a bigger server, kind of more computing power, or you can have a hosted service. But you want to get the search results fast. Now, the step after that is the rendering, where the server actually takes the results and basically renders them nicely on the screen, bringing all the images, the filters, and so on and so forth. And this is, I think, where computing power is not going to be sufficient. Typically, you want to take an expert and go over your theme, make sure that the theme is not too heavy because the theme is going to get loaded. Then you want to review all the plugins that you have, because sometimes you're actually waiting for a plugin that is not relevant for the search results page, and the user is waiting. And I've seen sites with horrible performance of 15 seconds, and that's really not acceptable. Finally, you want to use filters. Why is that? Because again, it may take time to recalculate the filter, but at least the user has something in front of them and they see it. So they're basically being kind of captivated by that and not kind of moving on to another site. So now let's go over a few small kind of merchandising tips on how to actually merchandise with search. Number one is have a search box. It sounds mundane, but you would not believe how many people kind of contact us sometimes and say, your search doesn't work, and we look at their site and there's no search box. So if you don't have a search box, go get one. You can use HTML, shortcode, widget, and make sure that it's visible. It doesn't have to be like an all-page search box like Google, but sometimes out of design consideration, we see people who have like this small magnifying glass at the bottom of the third page, and that's not good. Number two is make sure that the SERP is good on mobile. By the way, SERP is a professional search world term. It stands for Search Results Page. And I'm using it because it makes me look very sophisticated, as if I know what I'm talking about. Now, according to our data, today, 50% of search traffic is coming from mobile. And that's an increase from just a year ago when it was about 33%. So whatever you do, you have to assume that 50% of your traffic is going to come from mobile. So make sure that your search results page on mobile is decent. Number three, you got to think like a shopper. You got to kind of get an out-of-body experience and think, how do people are going to search for the product that I'm selling? And this is an example from a jewelry shop. It's a real shop. Where somebody is looking for something spiritual. And I know why they did that, because the guy was probably sitting with his girlfriend. It was before Valentine's Day, and she said, I think we should do something spiritual. So we understood immediately the hint and went looking for jewelry with the keyword spiritual, right? So you can think of kind of what your product titles have. You can think of special attributes, taxonomies, Q, but you have to understand how your shoppers are going to look for products. And the last one is really kind of, you have to note what shoppers are not finding on your site. And this is critical because that may tell you that some of your products are not listed correctly, or that you don't know how people are looking for stuff on your site, or maybe you want to source a new product onto your collection. So here are some of the popular things we've seen. We've seen shoppers looking for shots in a fashion site. And they were actually looking for shorts. So this can actually be corrected and make sure that when shoppers do that, then they get a suggestion to click on shorts. We got some geo stuff like push carts. For anybody here not been to the UK, then push carts is the synonym for strollers. And in a flower shop, people were looking for English roses, which is basically a synonym for long stem roses. So all of these are things that you as a merchant or your client as merchants want to look at. Not every day, but kind of once a month, go and see kind of what people are not finding on your site. So I'm sure that now everyone here is sold about the importance of search to your merchants. Everybody understands the importance of relevancy and performance. So the conclusion is that it's never too early to get your search ready for Christmas. So let's look at this clip. That was actually a WooCommerce store. So thank you very much. I'm Zohar Gilad. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Thank you.